So Mercury retrograde is coming up February 2026, and it's February 10th. So we're in the shadow period of Mercury retrograde. This is going to highly affect all you Geminis and Pisces and Aquarius, and I think Virgo as well. Yeah. So let's talk about what is Mercury retrograde, because a lot of people talk about it, and typically when people talk about it, they're like, oh, don, 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 don. They're like, so there can be some dogma around the idea of Mercury retrograde and it being like a time of misfortune. And I'm here to bring some clarity and some ease around that, because for some people, depending on how Mercury lines up in their birth chart, will affect how Mercury retrograde affects their life. So some people actually experience Mercury being in retrograde. It makes it better for them. They feel like they kind of get like a springboard, like jumping off a springboard, and they get like a little bit ahead of things. It's all about how you use it. It's kind of like a hammer can be like considered bad because you accidentally like hammered your thumb with it, or it could be considered good because you know, it's useful for getting that nail in the wall, just like a knife. It can be used to like prepare a healing meal, or it could be used in a way that isn't as fun. So it's about a tool and how you use it. It's about a phenomena. And whether it's regardless, it's in the collective unconscious. So it's something to address because there's enough people that have experiences around it. So let's talk about it. So Mercury retrograde is a time where it might appear as if the planet Mercury is moving backwards in the sky. Kind of like if you're in a car and you're parked and the cars around you start pulling forward, it feels like you're pulling back. Or if you're in a car and the parking brake's not on and it's on a little bit of a hill and you start rolling back, it looks like everybody's driving. But then you don't see anybody in the car around you driving, and it's like kind of a trip. So it can be like that sort of a feeling. Or when you're on a roller coaster ride, but you're not on a real roller coaster ride because it's on the video. So it feels like certain things. So it can feel like there's more hiccups around things like technology and communication. You'll notice these things more. I like to use Mercury retrograde. Mercury has to do with our mind. That's like the collective unconscious archetype of our mind and our thoughts and our thought patterns. And I like to use the time when it's in retrograde, where it appears to be moving backwards, because of the angle of the earth and where it is in relation to us. I like to use that time as a time of review. We learn things like the more where we follow the stars and the planets and all of that over time, because I've been following the stars and the planets like 30 some odd years, 40 some odd years. Yeah, like close to 40 years I've been like following this stuff, and I've been following it much more closely in the past probably 5 years. I've actually spent like approximately an hour a day or more on studying this stuff for the past 5 years. So you learn things as you go. And what I have learned is that more of the beneficial. You know, I was Sagittarius rising, so like I'm always looking for the silver lining. I can't help it. This is how I go. So I've learned some beneficial things that can happen with Mercury retrograde. But the first things we want to address are the basics. What most people will tell you is it's not a time to get your hair cut. Mercury rules the mind, but it can also rule the hair. So you could end up like saying things in a way that feel confusing, or being confused, or the hairstylist could be confused as to what it is that you're saying that you want. So during those 3 weeks, especially, and even maybe like a few days before those 3 weeks, it's just a better time not to like change anything that has to do with from the neck up. but it could be a good time to review. It could be a good time to look at, like, what kind of eye makeup is out there that I've never tried before. What kind of hairstyles do I want to change my hairstyle? Like, what kind of hairstyles have I had in the past? What kind of hairstyles do people with my shape of head have? And what looks good on them? Like, things like that. It's a good time to review these things, but maybe not necessarily as much of a great time to take action. Now, there are exceptions to the rules, and that could be maybe if you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart or some other things, but we're not going to go into the exceptions as much. Other things they say, like, don't go back to your ex. And I'm going to say that, like, especially right now when we have things are between Aquarius and Pisces. So Aquarius energy is very mental, and it's kind of a relief in some ways, for me anyway, as somebody who has a lot of watery Piscean energy in my birth chart. I'm very empathetic, and the thing for people that are very empathetic and very watery in their nature, the thing for us is, like, what we have to do is we have to learn not to take on other people's emotions and soak it up. So it can happen really easily with air signs, because air signs are so great at being in the head, but their mission in life is to feel their emotions. So, like, we can be the antenna for other people's emotions because they don't know what to do with their emotions. So they'll, like, blame us for their emotions and put it on us as if we made it happen for them, when, like, really that's, like, it's their stuff. So it's our job to know what's our stuff and what's not our stuff as water signs. And it's air signs' jobs to, like, be able to feel their feelings and own their feelings and stuff like that. So, like, feelings are, like, something to deal with. So we're in this time where we're in between the relief. A lot of us get this relief during Aquarius season, a lot of us watery signs, where things can be more mental and we don't have to feel as much. Not just because air evaporates water and water is emotion, but also because when the air signs are in an air season, they are even more in their head. So they're like, it's almost like they go further into their head to the point where they're not even, like, putting their emotions out. It's during, like, the watery seasons that they would be more likely, or the earth seasons, that they would be more likely to be putting, like, their energy, like their emotions, like, out of themselves to try to process it. And as human beings, a lot of us process our things by using each other as mirrors. So there could be this feeling of, like, relief that, like, things are a little less emotional during Aquarius season. And Aquarius season goes until about the 20th of February. And it started around the 20th of January. So we've got that. And then we're going to go into Pisces season. So we're going to be, like, kind of, from that mental place to that emotional space during Mercury retrograde. So we're going to be reviewing not just what we think about things on a collective level. So this is the type of thinking that's, like, the bird's eye view, the eagle's eye view, the view of the world as a whole, the view of the communities as a whole, and things that are just much more, like, a broader picture, and it's not intensely, like, individuated or independent or precise. It's general abstract mentality, and it can be really refreshing for some of us. We're going to be going into that, from that into the deepest depths of emotion, Pisces, like the deepest depths of the sea. Like, so we're going to feel like we've come from this outer space where it's so dark and it's so starry, and we've landed on Earth where there's all this sun. And so, like, it's almost like we're being viewed as enlightened, or there's this experience of, like, oh, I'm so enlightened because, I came from outer space where it was totally dark except for us, and we were shining, and we were keeping each other shining bright by shining. And then we come down to Earth and there's sun shining and we're not so bright anymore, but it feels like enlightenment. And then we're going to be at the bottom of the sea, which is totally dark. Bottom of the sea is like Piscean times. So I'm using an analogy here. I'm not speaking literally. But like the analogy is like the depths of the emotions, and when we talk about the darkness at the depths of the sea, a lot of it has to do with the subconscious and the unconscious and all that jazz. So during Mercury retrograde, what it's calling for us to do is to review. Don't just review what you see when you see the big picture. Don't just review what you see in the abstract and what could be, or what you see when you see the big picture. So some of us might be seeing the big picture during Aquarius season. We're like, okay, we know that sometimes to have a whole new reality or a whole new earth or whatever, that sometimes the old structures have to come down and we have to do a build up from the bottom up. Especially when it comes to like things like during this particular Aquarius season, there was a lot coming up around morals and stuff like that. And I predicted that correctly. And I was really excited about that. I've been noticing in the music industry just today when I was like, some news popped up and people like separating themselves from what they do not consider to be morally just or fair or for equality or for reparations or for equity. So they're putting their material, hard blood, sweat and tears and money and their material wealth and their material value, they're aligning that with what they consider to be more. They're getting away from what they consider to not be in alignment with the things of Aquarius, which I was saying in another post, in another video, which has to do with justice and fairness and equality and equity and things like that. So we're already seeing that. Like we're seeing that a lot in the music business. I'm just noticing in the news today. And so there's this abstract awareness, which can be kind of a relief because there's a little less emotion happening there. So it's not so weighty. And then we go into the emotion, which is the Pisces. So we go from like, we see the big picture and then we go into the depths of the feeling. So it's almost like, it's like you're being told like, okay, you're going to go through this thing and, you're about to go through this thing and here you go. And then boom, like you're down there. You're going to be reviewing not just like what the big picture looks like, but you're going to be reviewing emotions, like emotional stuff. And some of it could be unconscious stuff. And they say like, don't go back to your ex or don't go back to relationships that didn't serve you. Or, and when I say didn't serve you, I'm speaking from like a Louise Hayes type linguistic pattern. It's not like, don't go back to those who didn't bow down to you and, kiss your booty and like fluff you up. What I mean when I say don't go back to what does not serve you, what I'm talking about is, do not go back to situations and relationships and emotional things that are not in alignment for you. So yeah, Mercury retrograde could be a time where you're like tempted to like hook back up with the ex, or it could be a time where you're tempted to like hook back up with old friendships that didn't work out or yada yada. But it is a good time to review. So maybe, like you had to cut somebody off and you didn't get closure or you didn't give closure. You just were like, I'm stepping away from this right now because it's so beyond. Like they have no idea who they're even talking to. Like, and sometimes people get like that. Sometimes people are so caught up in their unconscious patterns that they're just like kind of putting their stuff on you, and they can't see that they're just using you as a mirror or a projector that to see their own stuff. They can't see that that's what's happening with you. And if you respond to them in those situations, you are playing the role of the projector or the mirror rather than being yourself and being in your truest authenticity. And you can choose to not engage with those kinds of situations. You can choose to like, be like, this is, not in alignment with me, and it's not the role I want to be, and it's not for me. So you could step away. But then there might be, during Mercury retrograde, especially when Pisces season, where some emotional stuff comes up. So you could be like, okay, I'm feeling some emotional stuff, like around that particular, situation where it was unresolved and I would like to get closure. And, like why closure? Like maybe you don't always need closure, but maybe you're questioning if you do or not. So it could be you're reviewing, you could be reviewing your emotions. So it's a time of review for the abstract stuff. And then it's going to be more and more of a time. Most of Mercury retrograde is going to be about reviewing emotions. And it's going to be about reviewing emotions in your inner world, because the first 10 days of every cycle, every astrological season is your inner world. And then the next 10 days after that is like your community, but more your like household and your family, like the people closest to you, your neighbors, like your immediate community or your immediate household. So those are the areas where you're going to be like looking. So what does this look like in day-to-day life? It could be, you find, someone popping into your head, or you could even be comparing where you were during a time in the past with where you are now. And it could be a time to really congratulate yourself. So like, for example, last spring, the end of last spring, someone who was working on getting sober and getting off some pretty hard drugs and working on moving and changing their life. At one point, they just kind of spun out and they just kind of like spewed a bunch of stuff towards me that wasn't true. They said I wasn't a good friend, that I didn't even offer to help them. And I had actually offered to help them. And I actually had been sick part of the time, and I had been like, out of the state, out of like town and out of the state for the other part of the time, but they were just spinning out and like, taking stuff out on me verbally and claiming that I wasn't a good friend. And then they started talking to me like I was like some kind of a delinquent. And I realized, like, I could see it clearly, like, this is how they talk to themselves. This is how they're used to being spoken to because of their history and their life and whether they deserved that or not. This is how they think about themselves. So this is how they were thinking about me. And they weren't really thinking about me. They were thinking about themselves. They were like kind of using me as a mirror. And it was really sad because I really wanted to be there for the person, but they like weren't letting me in, and they were just kind of like, spewing that I was just the opposite of what I was. And I get this a lot. I don't get it as often anymore since I've gotten better at being like, nope, that's not for me. And like, don't even need to respond, like cut it off, block it, get it away as far away as possible, and just start working on me. Because it can be really easy for water signs and people who are very empathetic to take on stuff that's not theirs. And that's just doesn't get you anywhere in your own life. It keeps you from doing your own things. So, I continued to like, work on my own stuff, and it was really sad. I missed them. And it's hard during that time. And so recently I've been noticing the universe keeps having me in situations where I am right by where they moved to. And today I realized I walked out of this building where I've been working on projects and bettering my life, and my music has really improved. And I was dancing and anyway, taking these classes that were really helping me in my own self-development and with my own creativity and things like that. And it just happened whenever I would put the word out, like I need a class or something. And like, people would be like, the things would pop up and they would always bring me right by this person's house. And that kept happening. And I thought, like, at first throughout the spring and summer, I was like, it's so sad that like, this person had to be, a poo, because like, I'm right over here. Like, it would be so easy to like, be like, you need anything, while I'm over here. And I was over there like a lot, not like, it's too bad, but I was like, also like, well, it's a coincidence and I'm not going to act on it because this person's not in a place where they're going to be able to recognize what they were doing or how what they were doing was so off, and how I deserve to be spoken to and treated in such a better way than that. And they just weren't even open to receiving like my kindness or my help. And they were telling me I was opposite. So anyway, so like it's review, and I was able to get away from the emotions of it last summer. Probably like took me maybe a month of like continually being around where they were and being like, that's just too bad. But I just kept telling myself like, you know, I deserve better than that. And what, you know, I'm not gonna, there's too many other things to focus on, and that's a big distraction. So, when it comes up for review again, today I walked out of this building and I was like, oh my God, I think that could be that could be like their neighbor's window in their building. Like that could be their building right there. Like just a few feet away from where I was. But I've been there in that particular space that close for quite some time without really consciously realizing it. Just being like, oh, I'm in the general neighborhood. And I know they're like over there, but like not realizing like how close. So like Mercury retrograde could make you realize like, oh, like I am so close to this thing that I am not anymore, but I am. Like it could make you recognize how far you've come. Like my self-esteem and my self-actualization and everything is so much different than it was last May. Like I am not totally really the same person as I even was like last May when this person was trying to talk to me that way. And part of the reason was because I chose not to waste time trying to defend myself and like make this person who was like obviously using and obviously unstable, try to make them see me clearly. Like, why would I try to control another person and make them see me clearly for who I really am? And engage with me when they're obviously overstimulated and overwhelmed and on their own journey and they need to like have some time. Why would I do that when I have things to work on for my own self? You know, so like I worked on my own stuff, like my singing and my dancing and my vocals and music programming and learning software for music programming. And today was just this like mentally, when I woke up, I was like, oh, I see, I'm so tired. I'm working so hard. And I feel like, will I ever like see any difference? Will I ever? And then I remembered something I wanted to learn. So this was a song that I made up like 2 years ago. I made a little 30-second song and I was like, I want to learn what I can do with that little 30-second song because I already like it, but I couldn't hear it very well. And I had used all these analog devices to like record it. So today, like I took this piece. So this is another thing you can do. You can take something from the past that you've kind of put on hold, that you want to develop, that you want to improve, and you can review it. So, and you may want to do that with people and you may not. It just depends, you know, and it's going to be a little tricky when it comes to human beings because we're going into Pisces and Pisces can be very creative. Pisces sees the potential in everything. It sees what something could be or what the possibility at its best that it could be. And so it's really easy to do that with humans, but the problem is that we can't control other humans. We can try, and maybe we can a little bit, but like, it's such a waste of time when there's so much to control within ourselves. And like, it's so much better to be controlling ourselves in regards to Pisces also rules like things like creativity and things like, magical things and beautiful things and things that come from the heart and that come from emotions like music. So I had a musical breakthrough today because I was like, I remembered, and we're in the shadow period of Mercury retrograde right now. I remembered this little 30-second song that I had made up a couple of years ago and how I wanted to get it into a software program so that I could clean it up a little bit and hear it better. And it was a phenomenal little song. I felt very proud of it. Like it's the kind of thing I would want to hear on a radio. And people told me like it reminded them of like a band called Promise Ring, and it sort of had this eerie, ethereal, like almost even like a little Evanescence sound to it. And so I had wanted to get into a music program, and I had tried and it didn't really work out. I tried like in September. So here today, I worked with someone who showed me how to get it into a software program and how to make some changes to it so that I could hear it more clearly and how to add some things to it that I wanted to add to it. And it sounds phenomenal. It was just like this mental orgasm of incredible beauty and hope and just, and I can easily spend the next 3 weeks working on this 30-second like little song that I wrote back in 2024 during Mercury retrograde. I could use this little 30-second song to learn so much about this software program. And it's called mixing, but it's also called, I can still call the song mine, even though there's all these things in the software program that it does it very quickly for me so that I don't have to do like every little tiny thing like by hand. And it's phenomenal. And I stepped out of that place like, wow, I like just heard some incredible music, and it's music I made. Because I learned how to integrate software. I learned how to integrate production into my musical craft. And as I stepped out of this little place, I was like, that person's home is like, I think that's, their home is like right there, like just a few feet away from where I was. I was like, I'm in such a different place than I was when this person was trying to talk to me like a poo, and like trying to treat me like a poo, and treating me like I'm some kind of delinquent, you know, like, and, but I also still kind of felt like, you know, like it's too bad. And then I was also like, if it's Tuesday, it's $5 Tuesday. We could be going to a $5 movie right now if this person hadn't try to treat me like a poo. And it's not even like, so Cancer, there's a difference between Cancerian energy would be like, sure, I'm still mad at them that they treated me like a poo, but would forgive if somebody like tried, maybe would forgive if somebody tried to say sorry. Piscean energy is just kind of like, it's different. I feel like it's not like we're not looking for a sorry. We're looking to not get trapped in feeling that feeling for a long period of time, because sometimes we'll feel feelings a lot longer that are not even ours to feel. And then it becomes like a net for fish. Like when you catch a bunch of fish in a net, it becomes like a net that you feel like you're trapped in, and you can be weighted down. And there's a thing with the creative process. So Piscean energy is very creative. So things are going to slow down mentally and during a very creative time. And that can be really beneficial for people who want to be creative, because maybe sometimes you feel like, oh, I really want to be creative, but I don't have the time. This is the time. When Mercury's in retrograde in Pisces, pick up that paintbrush that you put down years ago and just fool around with it some more. It's not like you're necessarily starting something from scratch, but pick up something that you were working on that was creative from before and go back to it. And you'll see like it's a little easier to get. It's almost like everything has slowed down enough for you to be able to like grasp it more easily. So yeah, like, do I want to develop that friendship and that relationship that was, the main thing that I got out of that relationship was we were both healing our bodies physically at the time. This person would go on walks with me, and I liked their personality and I liked their character, but I like people very easily. I like all kinds of people, but, and I appreciated that they were interested in the types of therapies that I have been trained in, like different types of somatic therapies and things like that. So I appreciated that about them, like, because a lot of people will think that that stuff is hokey, and this was somebody who like actually honored that, and they like music. So like, do I want to develop a relationship? Or Pisces is more like, don't want to get trapped in being talked to like I'm a delinquent, or having people talk about me like I'm some kind of delinquent, or talk to me that way, or get other people to think of me that way. Like, don't want to get trapped in that, because like I'm working way too hard. Like, I need people to meet me where I'm at and take me seriously so I can keep learning what I'm learning, and keep being who I'm being. And if you're around people that are treating you less than who you are, or treating you less than, and you believe that you're less than, you're not going to get where you want to get with your life. It's more important to be thinking about what you want out of life than to be thinking about, oh, I don't want them to think of me that way. I want them to see this about me, or I want them to see that about me. It's better to like, cut yourself out of that net, I think, But it's really interesting. Like, you can also wonder, because we're still in the time of Aquarius. You could be like, but why did the universe put me in this position? Why did the universe, you've seen the big picture. So the big picture is like, I'm so close to where this person's located. We could still be having really cool walks. We could still be going to $5 movies. We could, I could still be there for this person. And like, you see the big picture, and on an abstract level, you're like, it's totally illogical. Why? Like, but then you can go into the emotions too. And you can be like, well, are there other people that, like, have I had these experiences before, whether people wouldn't see me for who I really am, and I really wanted them to? And if they were really close, would I fall into it and like try to be, am I really doing what I'd rather be doing? Like, am I really happy working on my music more than anything else? Like, this is my relationship with myself. And like, working on your music or your creative flow is like it's your relationship with yourself. And that is the first and primary relationship. All of your relationships are polyamorous because their first and foremost relationship is with yourself. And everything after that is icing, so it's like, would you want to go straight from having this mind-blowing experience with music production to hanging out with somebody who will never, want to hear about that, who will never be able to take that in, who will never, do you want to go straight from that experience of like, wow, to being around somebody that you felt like was a little bit jealous of you, or a little competitive of you, or like didn't take you seriously, or just like somebody who wasn't taking the best care of themselves maybe that they could have been, or I don't know. Like, you really got to think about those kinds of things. I highly recommend anything creative during this time of Mercury retrograde in Pisces. I highly recommend that. But, when it comes to like going back to like try to work on things in other relationships during Mercury retrograde, like friendships that didn't work out, exes, whatever it is, like, really, you're just working on, there's something in yourself. So like in that friendship, like, is there a family member? So like, that's how you would go deep. And Pisces goes deep. It's about psychoanalysis. It's about like going to the root of whatever it is, because there's nothing deeper than the root of the bottom of the sea. Like, that is the deepest depth. That is the most grounding that you can get. It's like right there at the bottom of the ocean. That's as deep as it goes, right? So like, what is behind that? Are there any other human beings, that ex? Do they remind you of your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or a cousin that you were really close with, or some caretaker or some sibling that you were really close with that you didn't like resolve things or get closure? Is there someone like that you knew even better, or that you were even closer with, or that you maybe had a blood relationship with that you didn't get closure? Or that you didn't like bother to work that out because it met a wall within yourself where you're not able to receive love, then that's really what you're working on. Like, you're not working on, it has nothing to do with that ex as much as it does with you and your roots and your stuff. Like, that it's the walls within yourself that you come up against when you try to take those walls into the external reality. So Mercury retrograde is a great time to review that stuff. So like, would I have, if I had a family member who, like had a hard time with sobriety, had a hard time with stability, had a hard time with like, was projecting stuff onto me that just wasn't me at all, talking to me like I'm some kind of delinquent, telling me I wasn't there for them when I really was there for them, literally telling me that I did the opposite of what I did. Like, if I had like a sibling or a parent or someone in my life that was doing that, and I think we all have possibly, would I give them the time of day? Like, would I do that? And the answer for me is no. At this, like, being at this point in my life where I'm finally working on the things that I really want to work on in myself and my life, and and my creativity and my development. I'm finally doing that because I'm not trying to take care of relationships or help other people take care of relationships as much. And I'm just trying to give myself the freedom of expression to even just get out who I really am and how I really feel about things so that I can like relate, like, no, I wouldn't trade that for that. I wouldn't at this point in time. I already spent my life working on all of that. So it's kind of like for you, you would need to think like, where are your values? Maybe you've spent your whole life doing all the creative, fun, cool, interesting, explorative things that you've ever wanted to do. And maybe you feel like now you really want to start working on like relationship stuff more. You want to start working on like those parts in your own development when you were growing up where you missed something, and you want to like, the way that you're going to get the answers to that is going to be by working it out with other people that you know in more modern times. And so be it. Let that happen. Let it go that way for you. See what I'm saying? But I recommend getting creative with yourself. The creativity is a great portal into the reflecting time, and Mercury retrograde is the perfect time for self-reflection. So it's a perfect time to be insightful. It's a perfect time to be really looking into yourself and your own spirit, and what is your spirit here for? It's not here for an apology. You're not an apology. Your body's not an apology. Your emotions are not an apology. The experiences that you've had, the stuff that's been projected onto you doesn't need to be apologized for. Your existence is more than an apology. And sometimes when things circle back around, it can be for that reason. Like there needs to be like an I'm sorry and you matter and like validation and all of that. But you are worth so much more than that. So I would implore that you like go into your spirituality, go into your creativity, go into meditation, and just kind of review, like, were there ever any spiritual things that you're interested in that you put down for a while, and pick them back up again and review them? Were there ever any creative things that you were into or that you thought you could be into or that you started? Pick it up again and go do it again and work on it again. So that's what I recommend for Mercury retrograde. I hope I gave you some clarity on like, what is it and all that jazz. A lot of people will just be like, oh yeah, the copier's not working, or, the lights keep going on and off. It's Mercury retrograde. No, it's so much deeper than that. There's so much more to it than that. You can blame like all the misunderstandings and all of this jazz on Mercury retrograde, but really like Mercury retrograde is a time to be reflecting. It's a time to be reviewing. And it's a time to be like, okay, like, is everything, do I got all my ducks in order? Stuff like that. And it can be an incredible breakthrough, like creatively, if you pick up some, old creative stuff, your old writing, your old stuff. Cheers.